These violent delights have violent ends. My time with Witcher 3 Wild Hunt main questline recently came to a jarring end. Continue only if you care not for spoilers or have played the game and are aware of its possible endings. As can be intuitively divined from the title, I definitely got the ending where Ciri becomes a Witcher and the happy family scenario unfolds before my eyes while I well up with proud daddy tears. She's got jokes, kids. My ending was the horrifically painful one that immediately threw me into the 5 stages of grief. Denial. The game teased me with flickering between the portal and my emotion-torn face and Ciri's beautiful contemplative one, and then my fire-hearted daughter dropped to the ground in a wintry abyss and a portal slammed shut on my hopes and dreams. I thought, surely, she's making her way back to me. All these flashback scenes are showing the moments I was an excellent father. She's going to come back to me and we'll fight everything off together. But when the game showed me the war-torn, impoverished villain, I thought, definitely, she's going to show up out of nowhere and we'll defeat this last hideous crone together and live out our days. But no. Geralt told me in words my daughter was dead, and in expression that I no longer had a reason to live. I kept thinking back to the moments leading up to the confrontation with Avallac'h, where Yen and I escaped a giant and flame-infested battlefield, and her parting words were an action movie's best one-liner of, "Give Avallac'h my best regards," and thought, absolutely, we were headed towards getting Ciri back and saving the world. After the ending played out, after I watched the man I had spent 100 hours desperately loving and carefully choosing well-intended responses for, and in essence becoming the best Geralt I could be torn from me in a matter of a few minutes, after I watched this man rip demons and crone alike apart with no regard to prophecy or even self-preservation in order to wreck a cottage to find his apparently dead daughter's medallion, only to have the filth of Crookback Bog presumably kill me, I watched with disbelieving eyes as I was awarded a short and wildly unfulfilling cutscene to the end of my game. I watched with jaw dropped and tears spilling down my cheeks as I waited for the cutscene I felt I deserved and had to be at the end of the credits. I did not believe that CDPR would destroy my soul so thoroughly after everything and every part of me and my time that I gave this game. Anger. To say I was fucking livid is an understatement. I did everything I could think of to put Ciri ahead of myself and roleplay the fuck out of Geralt. I wanted to be the most Geralt-y Geralt I could dream of. I chose to be the Geralt I feel he is in his heart. That one that cares deeply for all living things, who didn't choose this life but is choosing to be the Witcher that Vesemir could be proud of. I was furious that the game gave no indication or NPC guidance that said, hey, maybe you should let Ciri run headfirst into battle because it's what she wants to do, even though everything in this game was tailored to protecting her. I was furious that even though everyone tried to protect her and agreed that Ciri ought to remain behind in order to stay safe, I was the one to blame for her death/disappearance. And I was furious most of all because I loved Ciri like my own daughter. I wrote a dissertation that fought for her equal rights as a character, and how if we made better narrative choices for women in fiction, then we as women would have better quality of life. Ciri represented everything I wanted women to be allowed to be, and I as Geralt represented the father figure she didn't receive from her cold and calculating emperor father. Bargaining. I thought maybe in the DLC she comes back, and suddenly Ciri will be okay. I picked out the keywords of my life-ending cutscene that Ciri disappeared, hadn't been seen since, not that she died, and thought, well, surely if I just play more, then I'll get her back, right? I also thought, what if I go back and play the last 40 hours again? I went through it relatively quickly, right? I think I was only one decision off. I could let her destroy Avallac'h's laboratory, and evidently that makes me a better father, right? Depression. I told myself it was okay, but I didn't believe it. I could see myself being melodramatic because it's just a game. But it's not just a game, is it? I stepped into the pages of the books I loved but wanted to be better, and was able to interact in real time with the characters I had sworn a piece of my heart to, and I failed. I failed miserably. I more than likely killed the woman I had identified with and been fighting for years, and I left the man I had personally humanized with his life in ruin. The world had never been kind to Geralt. Being made into a Witcher was a non-consensual and irrevocable change in his life. Even after he was physically tortured in order to be made, he had to live the solitary life the job as a nomad demands. In addition to this, the world had a general prejudice towards him and the people he considered his family. Being a protagonist faced with the world's hardship in your story isn't anything new, but being dealt the hand of being a true minority subject to racial bias, despite being the reason the oppressors are all alive and safe, and being forced to live alone was at least new to me. I wanted the best for Geralt. The whole game is peppered with instances where the player is reminded that Witchers are devoid of human emotion. But in between those moments, you see the reality of Geralt's immensely kind heart and a quiet little spark of hope that drives him towards the future of a better world. And I personally smothered that spark by following my instincts as to how I thought Geralt would have responded in each situation. I threw his hope away. I couldn't bear the thought of talking about my ending because a part of me was still in the bargaining phase and considering replaying the last 40 hours. I couldn't imagine having to continue on as Geralt with an impossibly heavy heart and still witchering on. I knew I wouldn't be seeing Ciri again in the DLC, and I knew that my Geralt's surly ways would no longer be an indication of playfulness and secret charm, but rather the biting snap of the wounded wolf. I was afraid to have to live with the consequences of the brutally hard life that I evidently had single-handedly crafted for myself. Acceptance. This is a phase I'm still working on because a game like this is never just a game. This game ripped my heart into teeny tiny shreds and shoved them through the portals to all the worlds Ciri could have been jumping between. However, I have accepted that this is possibly the most Geralt ending I could have received. It's unfair and brutal and heart-wrenching, but it is true to the world I had been playing in for 90+ hours mostly unscathed. I heard talk from villages about how terrifying life is in Velen, how Novigrad's mobs controlled all of the small businesses, how Skellige, though doing better with the newly anointed Cerys, was still grieving over its losses and its isolation from the world. I witnessed firsthand the desolate lives and the jarring environmental storytelling of those who simply couldn't go on living, but I was impervious to it all. I had beautiful and incredibly powerful sorceresses hoping to win my affection. I had an extraordinarily talented daughter that I was no doubt going to find soon. I had Roach, my ever-faithful horse, and I had my Kaer Morhen family. But as I tirelessly played on, the Northern Kingdom started holding up their end of the bargain. I got Ciri back, but at the expense of my father figure. I could deal with that because Vesemir had lived a long life, and Kaer Morhen was coming to its end now that no new Witchers were being created. But then, after all of my work and effort and painstaking moments calculating consequences, I lose Ciri, of all things. This ending was a result of me playing this game exactly as I imagined Geralt would. I was protective of Ciri because she had gone through too much. I encouraged her not to be so hard on herself because she was doing a damn good job of it all to begin with. I didn't let her destroy her friend's lab so that she didn't have to deal with those consequences. But these responses were the last nails in the coffin because I wasn't playing the game as I would if I were Ciri.
What can you know about saving the world, silly? You're but a Witcher. This is my story, not yours. You must let me finish telling it.
My acceptance stems from two pieces of information. 1. Ciri is said to have disappeared, not died. And 2. This is the ending I imagine comes to those who played Geralt true to Geralt's nature. I have not saved Ciri, but there is a yet I still have hope I can tack on. One day, I'll be able to play the DLC without feeling like I'm ripping into old wounds, but that day is not today. This game will never be just a game to me. It, even though it has cut me deeply, is a masterpiece beyond words. I did not expect to be so thoroughly burned by a game, but I invested heart, soul, and so much time, and I can't find it in myself to regret it. When I look objectively, I can see the genius in slamming Geralt, me, into reality and forcing me to face the fact that normal decisions for me might have massive repercussions around me. I will never be able to look at a giant RPG the same, and I will never be similarly naive again. While I still have hope, I have a new needling sense of skepticism, and my gaming naivety has been washed off the map. I spent more time with this game than I have with people I would consider my friends, and it hurt me deeply. It can't be just a game after everything I've been through with it. So I have a strange sense of feeling privileged to play this game and to be somewhat destroyed by it. I have been truly affected, and I have a new and honed depth of appreciation for this method of storytelling because of it. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want more content like this, consider following me on Twitch, Instagram, or Twitter at RedEllieGamer, or subscribe right here, and don't forget to click the notification bell to stay up to date on Late to the Game.